Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe, with another edition, I guess, of our closer look into the X-Files Season 3, Episode 8, Oubliette. November 17th, 1995, it drops for the first time. Kim Manners, our director, written by, and this is interesting, first-time writer for the series, Charles Grant Craig. Most notably known as a production assistant for the Slumber Party Massacre in 1982. So that's quite a, I love that movie. That's quite a thing there. Yes. Oubliette. What is it? It is a secret dungeon with access through a trapdoor in its ceiling. It's taken from the French word for forgetting, something to that effect, right? This is, oh man, this is a tough one, man. This is a tough episode. This one, the cinematography, a combination of the writing, the cinematography, how we see Mulder and Scully, both Gillian and David really brought, their A game, as to suggest that there are days they don't, but 11 seasons, it's a 9-to-5 job. You're gonna have your better days and not so great days. It's just life. It is what it is. But then there are moments when, I don't know, everything just seems to line up in such a way that you can't help but to fight to keep the tears from just rolling down your face. And this is one of those episodes where everything just seems to work, I think, in a really interesting way. It's frightening. It is absolutely frightening. I just reviewed Stephen King's Revival for a friend, and which deals in part with loss. And this one also, this episode, deals with loss in the sense of thank God it's a temporary loss, but loss nonetheless, where your home, that which is sacred, is violated in the worst way, and you wake up in the middle of the night to screams of your youngest one who has just watched their older sister abducted out of their bedroom, out of the window, not to be seen again. Thank God this episode has somewhat of a silver lining to it, but not without its sacrifice as well. And so that's really the beginning setup scene, is an abduction. This nut job, he is a nut job. Carl Wade, the guy who plays him plays him pretty good, maybe a little too good. He works as a photographer, works in schools, which is a scary thought, and he eyes this one girl, Amy, and he is becomes very obsessive. And that obsession, the need to want to have that which you can't have, causes him to invade their home in the middle of the night, abduct her out of her bed. And the reason why Mulder and Scully get called into it, though, is because a girl on the opposite side of town who's working in I'm pretty sure it was a fast food restaurant, diner, maybe, sorts. What was her? Lucy, yes. She is a kidnapped victim herself. She had gotten away, but her life is one that is just damaged, and she is still living as a survivor, just day by day by day. Well, she some sort of psychic, telekinetic, something vision, something happens to her in that moment where her nose starts to bleed, and then she just passes out, murmuring what our abductor on the other side of town has just said to the girl he's pulled out of her bed in the middle of the night, knowing it's going to ruin our surprise, or ruin this surprise, something to that effect. And that is why Mulder and Scully Mulder gets, interested in this case. And, underlining, it's weird, underlining the entire episode really is obviously Mulder's loss of his sister. And so he's very driven, by that in this episode, and yet he's not. It's almost a perfect balance where when Scully tries to call him out that, look, your grief over your sister is blinding you to the obvious here in this case, he takes that very personal, because it's not. But how can things like that not shape how we react or what drives us to do the things we do, the connections that, that we have, or what we are from that, right? And so he develops a real sort of close connection to this girl, Lucy, believes that she is suffering what Amy is suffering, as she is a new victim to this just nut job. And that's on perfect display when he's driving with her in the trunk out in the middle of the forest on his way to his house. We're near small town of Easton. And he's has blown his tires on the side of the road. A tow truck just happens to be coming by. Thinks he's the guy that called him. He's not. And when he tries to extend his services just as a good Samaritan, this dude just freaks out, man. Grabs his tire iron and just it threatens him. And the guy's just like, whatever, man. And while eventually that testimony will come in very handy in terms of locating this guy and attempting to intervene before it's too late, before he's had a chance to do whatever it is that ultimately he does do to his victims in the end. And it's just really harrowing. The girl does try to escape once, and that is harrowing in of itself. And it all just sort of leads to this end where, Lucy and Amy's paths ultimately will cross each other in a way that leaves Mulder and is somewhat in a new state of loss, I guess, and grief. And because he was only able to do so much, but he couldn't do all that he was seeking to do to bring a positive resolution to this case. I don't know how much more I'm trying to walk around things a little bit, because I think this episode, if you've never seen it, is definitely one of the high points of the X-Files series in terms of its and I mean, I guess it's a Monster of the Week episode. Carl Wade, it's not like a supernatural monster. He's just a nut job, but it plays on fears we have. And some of us, our worst fears is that our home would be invaded, that the sanctity of our home would be violated and invaded. And nobody wants to wake up to that in the middle of the night, or any time, right? And so I think just a lot of things play off each other almost perfectly. Like the stars are all in line with each other on this one, and everything and perhaps both Gillian and David both saw something in the script and saw how they could play off themselves, each other, but as well as the narrative, the story. It does feel very, 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 very personal, and not just because of the loss of Samantha, but just personal in the sense that this is a fear I think most, if not all of us, hold to some degree, right? And so, of course, Mulder runs at odds with the other inspector in charge, who, sees too much evidence piling up on Lucy that maybe she is somehow in league with Carl Wade, and she needs to basically, be arrested. Mulder doesn't see that, of course, and thankfully, we're allowed to ride towards the resolution in the end, where things that seem to work out in a way they were meant to work out, even with a sense of still tragedy. So it's interesting. It's really, this one was tough, man. This one, my eyes welled up a little bit, which is interesting when you're revisiting things you sort of grew up with and you've seen it. But you know, when it's written well and laid out well and played well, and it plays on real fears, you know these things can happen, and you have children of your own. It can work on you, and this was one that definitely, if the subject matter of this, as I have explained it, is something that is too much for you, then I guess you skip this episode. But boy, this was something else. This is going to stay in my mind for a while, even as I move on. And I can't remember which one is next. This is the last. This is the last episode on this disc. I'll be moving to disc 3 of this season. Disc 3, season 3. So I'm not sure which one is next, but I should have written it down. I should get in the habit of just writing it down. A lot of times it's easy because it's up there and I can boom put it up there and just check it out. But this is the last one, so Oubliette. Yeah, some things just too hard to forget. Interesting episode. Wow. Hopefully the next one's a little lighter. Anyways, we always end these things off with Go Bills.
This is not a dream. Not a dream.
We might be useful to you.